Welcome to Cafe Technica.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cafe Technica. We have a very, very special guest. He is somebody that I consider a personal friend and I've worked with for many, many years. This is the sales shaman, the man, the myth, the legend, Darren Maxwell. How are you, sir?
I'm great, man. Welcome. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, man. Listen, you're guest number 2 or 3, depending on how these things get released. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me and stuff. It means a lot.
Well, congratulations, buddy. Stepping out. You've always been a guy that likes to step, and you go for it. So, you know what? This podcast is going to be a huge success. Not maybe the one I'm in, but your podcast in general. I expect to absolutely blow up.
No, I think it's all because of you. I think it'll be because of you that it blows up. So, listen, from an introduction perspective, like let everybody know kind of a little bit about yourself, what you're doing. And I'd like them to kind of hear your story because I've heard your story many times over the years, and I feel like it's one of the best I've ever heard. And it's like really, really motivational. So like, just let everybody know where you're coming from and how we got to meet.
Well, I am currently working for a company that keeps growing and kind of changing names, but I've been with the same organization for 12 years now. As a matter of fact, 12 years this week. Is the anniversary of when I joined Core Technology Solutions back in 2012. We're, part of the field services business, so doing large-scale rollouts and deployments of technology, installations, cabling, that kind of work. And I've been with this company for a long time. We've recently been purchased, and then we continue to add other companies, making us a bigger organization. So the people are the same, but the names continue to change. That's what I'll say. But I have been in this business doing exactly this since 1999. So this is my career. It's what I know. It's an interesting business. It's a hard business, very challenging. Not for everybody, that's for sure. But it's kind of where I've cut my teeth. It's what I know, and it's where I guess I'm going to finish.
Well, I certainly hope so, right? Like I certainly hope that you don't on the job, No. But So tell everybody, because I've heard this before, but like tell everybody kind of how you got to this path, right? Because the business that we were a part of and that you're in, it's very niche, right? Like people don't understand, how you would get into that field and stuff. Tell people kind of some of the journey about how you got to where you were.
From the very beginning, or just how I ended up in the field service business?
You don't have to give us the genesis, like we can skip the first 20 years of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Well, I was actually a restaurant cook in my early 20s, right? I thought I was going to make it potentially as a chef, but then I quickly realized it's really hard physical labor. I had a very bad back, and I really liked to party way too much to be good at it. And so I quickly realized by about age 22 that this was going to be a short-lived career or I was going to be broke. And I was sitting at a bar, actually. I'm sitting at the bar at the restaurant. I'm realizing then this is not going to work for me. And the bartender, I remember still to this day, I'm like, this isn't going to work. I'm sitting there. It's like midnight, drinking, of course. And she said, what you ought to do, Darren, you ought to try sales. Well, I thought, okay. I mean, I've never done it. Don't know anything about it, but why not? And back then, that was when you got jobs out of the newspaper. All the things were in the want ads. There was none of this internet stuff today. So I didn't have the best of backgrounds. I didn't go to college. I tried. I flunked out at the beginning of every semester. I quit. I was a high school dropout. And, I had a lot of bad habits and got myself into a lot of trouble. And so I just start picking up the newspaper and looking. I'm circling all the ads that I think I could try. Most of them I'm completely unqualified for, but I tried to make a resume. Fortunately, my girlfriend was actually fairly decent at that. But I didn't get any interviews, hardly all, except for the jobs that no one else would want. And the one I ended up settling on, and I hope if you're watching this and you're in this industry, I apologize, but it was lawn care. So I was a all green lawn care salesperson. So I was the guy that went neighborhood to neighborhood, house to house, dropping estimates at your house, and then I would cold call you at night, right? So it was 100% a cold calling business. And you could knock on the doors during the day, which I didn't. I just said, I'll call them at night. But they put you through a rigorous sales training on how to cold call, aggressive, overcoming every objection in the world. It wasn't the highest quality selling experience, but really it thickened your skin on prospecting. Did that for a couple of years. And then I said, okay, I gotta move to the next crappy job, but hopefully I can get one just a little less crappy than the one before it. And I ended up getting a telemarketing job. So I was a telemarketer again, but this time I'm calling on businesses. And I worked for a guy named Tom Stanfield. Matter of fact, you can find him on LinkedIn. I'm reading his book right now called Unreceptive. One of the best sales people, leaders, and trainers I've ever worked with. And I'm pumping you up here, Tom. Tom, because he's got a good company called Aslan Sales Training. So look it up. But he really, all it was cold calling, representing other companies like Mass Mutual Insurance. And it was lead generation. You see a million of those lead generation companies today, right? They're out there all over. Well, he was one of the early ones, but he had a great system for teaching people how to prospect, but in a very one-to-one, you're on their level. He tried to put you on more equal footing. He tried to get you equal. I'm trying to learn a script, basically,
right,
on how to prospect and act like I'm a sales representative from Mass Mutual Insurance, and I'm calling their top customers, trying to get to the HR director and all that. And, he was so good at building these very conversational, professionally done scripts and training you. I got really good at it. And between the first job, which was hardcore cold calling, and this one was much more artful and well done, that kind of became my calling card, and then over the years that eventually led me to my first field service sales job at Vital Network Services. In 2000, I became their top rep globally. And it was, I've just kind of built the business over that time. And, I've been with Core for 12 years. And look, we've done well. We work together. For anybody watching the podcast, Tom and I work together. He's certainly one of the most brilliant people I've worked with or known.
I appreciate that.
No doubt about it. He's one of those.
Let me ask you this. I will take the shameless plug.
Sure. You got it.
When did you fall in love? When did you fall in love with the sales thing? Like, was there a moment that you can remember? You said, like, this is what I'm made to do, man. Like, this was it.
That's a great question. Early on in my career, I think I loved it because the thrill of making a new contact or winning or getting a sale or getting an appointment, it was a blood rush that kind of served me. But those same reasons were part of the reason that I wasn't always really successful. I had successful moments, successful years, but I also had some very unsuccessful moments and years. And I think a lot of it was because the part that I was interested in earlier in my career, when you combine some of the bad habits I had and then add this rush feeling that I got, it was really self-serving. I was looking out for me. Sometimes you meet people, and I would meet other salespeople and talk to them and find out, and they would go, "Oh, I just won this huge deal." And I'd listen to it. I go, "Wow, that's amazing. How'd you get it?" They go, "Oh, one of my buddies went over there and got a job and they brought me right in." Or, "Oh, one of my customers left here and moved over there." And it just seemed so easy. Like they didn't have to do anything. When I was being successful early, I was working my tail off, cold call, meeting, prospecting. But I didn't really ever have anybody say, "You know what, Darren, come with me. I'm going to bring you into this great deal, opportunity." It always felt like unless I wasn't pedaling, it wasn't working. So, and I did not pedal sometimes. So my career was very much up and down in the first half of it. And it wasn't until I met a mentor who really opened my eyes to a lot of things. I was one of those guys, I showed up without a plan. I tried to make it on talent alone and thinking that was enough. And I was one of those guys that didn't know what I didn't know, but I thought I knew everything, which my first mentor said, most of the people that don't know what they don't know they're the ones that think they know the most. They're typically the ones that do the least.
Sure.
I was kind of that person.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started to listen to him, and then I began to talk to customers and started asking my own, customers, what do you like? Because I would have one customer here that would be doing business with me, and then I would have someone else in the same company that I would have these great conversations with, or so I thought, but nothing's happening. And I couldn't figure out why. So I just started to interview other really good salespeople that I would come across that were highly successful, as well as I started talking to some of my own customers. And what I learned from the really good salespeople was they really applied so much of what they were doing was about the customer, about what they wanted, what they needed, not trying to offer them or make the sale or make the pitch or get the meeting or get the rush. It was about, how can I help this people, this person, this group, this team be successful? And if I can't help them, then I'm going to tell them, I can't help you, but maybe I met one guy still to this day. He said, if I knew a way to help them that was not in my purview, but it was another company that offered something that I didn't do, I would put them in touch to help my client because I wanted to help them be successful. That right there was one half of it. The other half was when I started asking customers, and I had customers tell me, you know what, Darren, I like you. But, and there was the but, and it was, I wasn't genuine, or they felt like I was always trying to sell them.
Yeah.
Or I was always, it came across that I had an agenda, and that agenda was about serving me. I didn't think it was that way at the time. Again, if you ask every salesperson, do you understand the value of trust and serving the client? Every single one of them to say, well, of course, that's exactly what I do. I thought that too. And it was humbling to hear some of my customers say, because I had some that were like, okay, he's great, they're giving me their business. But others, I wasn't able to do the same with. And so I didn't get that many referrals. And it really took me pedaling hard. And then if I stopped pedaling, things stopped. Once I began to really focus on learning, developing my skills, but doing it in a way that was completely devoted to try and build relationships that are built on trust and trying to help that customer, those clients, get what they want, what they need. And if I can't do that, I'm not going to keep pushing to try and make the sale.
Right.
Or do a big pitch, or be a used car salesman type. I hate to say that. Gosh, I'm sorry for any used car salesmen that are great. That's not what I meant, but I'm talking about the bad stereotype. Yeah, I'm sure there are many awesome used car salespeople.
Well, so let me ask you this. So like, you're focused on relationships and that kind of thing. And it's funny that you say, you found your first job in the newspaper and stuff, because that's my whole mission, right? The whole message with me is the world has gotten very technical. There's a lot of technology out there. You've got to cut through the nonsense. You've got to simplify and have a why, right? Have a reason for that. And also cut through some of this stuff that's unnecessary or not getting caught up with some of the tech. 'Cause some of it's really good in certain use cases, but some of it's not, right? So like shifting gears a little bit, like in that same vein, right? You're talking to customers, you're in the technology business, right? We were. How do you cut through some of that and not let the technology consume the deal or consume the message when you're out talking to a customer? Like, what are some of the tips and tricks that you've had about maintaining the conversation around that relationship and not letting the jargon or some of the details of the technology job get in the way?
You know what? That is a great question. I've got a great answer, and it's not really smart either. It's, I'm probably the least technical person in my industry. From a technology understanding perspective, I have several competitors that could go in and do the installation. They could do all the stuff that I'm selling. I probably can't do any of it. And, I'm just one of the least technical people that I know. And most people that would know me would agree. Tom, you might even agree with that as well. That helps me because I'm really focused on talking about what does the customer want? What do they need? What are they trying to accomplish? I make sure they understand clearly, this is what we do. This is what we do well. This is why and how it works. This is why customers use this. This is the value I can try and bring to your organization. Not just me. I'll be a servant and an advocate for you, but I'll have a team of people that actually do the stuff that I don't do. It's not the one-man Darren show. It's, if there's a couple things there's a few things I've definitely done very, very well that has really helped me establish a good brand, a good reputation, and a really good client base and a big revenue stand through customers. And one of those things is I bring in the right people to help me do what needs to be done for that customer to help them.
Well, so would you say that some of your success comes from actually not getting bogged down into the technology stuff? Like, would you argue that some of the success stems from the fact that you're coming at it from a low tech point of view, right?
You know what? I would say yes.
Yeah, I would agree.
I really do.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I probably spend I probably spend the first 5 minutes on every call with my best customers or even a new customer, shooting, just talking to them. Yeah. Whatever, sports, what is your day, your family, the weather, it doesn't matter. But, technology's amazing. It is. And certainly we have technicians that install it all over the place, but I really spend most of my time trying to get to know the people I'm working with, get to know their company, and really just, what can I do to serve you? I've got a personal mission statement, and it is to do everything in my power to help my customer keep and deliver the promises they make to their client. That's all I show up to do every day. Yep. And, I keep it simple, and I'm working in technology, but I'm really talking, I want to make a connection. I want to help my customers. If I can make every customer a good friend of mine, that's my goal.
Well, so how do you,
now, they don't have to,
so how do you feel about some of this stuff with like all the tracking and trending, right? Because a lot of people now are leaning on AI and lead generation and all of these systems to track, milestones throughout the sales process. And there's a slew of systems, right? There's Zoho, there's Salesforce, there's, I'm deploying one right now. That's like, it can get really, really detailed within that process. Like, how do you feel about some of that stuff? Is that stuff helpful? Or do you think that in certain cases it's killing deals?
You know what? I think there's a place for all of it. And for each individual, they've got their own thing that makes them successful. Each organization, each team, each customer. For me, I keep it about the person, the people, the connection, and trying to help them accomplish what they want. So I don't really get bogged down in any of that. And when it gets into systems and tracking, certainly whether it's our company systems and what we're trying to track for the customer, we've got the tools, we've got the people that manage that. That's not my job.
Yeah. My
job is to make sure I bring those people to bear to put the right tracking systems in place to help that client.
No, that makes sense.
And that is, look, I keep it simple. I really keep it simple. I do not make it complex. And the more time, to me personally, the more time I'm spent in tools, in systems, the less time I'm spent connecting.
Right. So do you think
that's how I think?
No, well, so that's actually it's one of the things that I focus on, right? So like, do you think that some of the technology that exists, and it doesn't even just have to be with work, right? Like just in your general life, like, do you think that like LinkedIn and Facebook and all of the different tools, Salesforce, things like that, like, do you think that they're enhancing relationships, or do you think that they're killing relationships, or somewhere in between? Like, what's your thought on that?
You know what? I think certainly LinkedIn and Salesforce, I think, add a tremendous value. I really do.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, LinkedIn, if there's a tool that I have used more than anything to help me succeed in certain ways, LinkedIn's it.
Yep.
I've used LinkedIn. I just do certain things with LinkedIn that's really helped me in business. It really has. So I use it as an absolute prospecting tool. I use it to create new connections. If I'm trying to get in with a new company, I use LinkedIn very, very well to penetrate that company.
Sure. Yeah, no, look, you've taught me some tricks with LinkedIn, and like I was on LinkedIn early days too. Like I've been trying to build a brand there for years, but like I know from working with you that you're a huge proponent of the platform. But again, like all of the technology that exists out there, sometimes they'll tout it as like, well, if you're not on these things, you can't be successful, right? Like there are keys to success, and that's one of them. And if you're not on there, you're not really considered serious. What I'm hearing you say is it's a tool in the toolbox, but it's certainly not the framework by which you're going to be successful.
No. I mean, look, this is just me.
Yeah.
People may see this and go, this guy's nuts. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And you may be right, although I think you're wrong. For me, Salesforce, a great tool for managing your pipeline, managing people, contacts, accounts, revenue, everything that's coming in. It really is. It's impressive. It really is. But it doesn't help me do my job better. It doesn't help me establish trust. It doesn't help me prospect better, cold call better, connect better, pitch, present better, add value, provide solutions better. It really does none of that. That's just me. So to me, as good as Salesforce is at tracking and managing, I'd rather have somebody else doing that for me, because I would rather be spending my time with people.
Sure. Yeah, no, I get that.
That's what I do, and so it doesn't help me establish trust.
No, that makes sense.
It doesn't help me serve.
What about AI? So like, I'm using a little bit of AI recently to do certain things. And like, I've been pretty public about the fact that in repetitive situations, I think it's awesome. Right. And I have actually had a lot of success with it doing creative writing and things like that for marketing slicks and whatever. But like, how do you feel about AI and where things are headed? Like, do you think that it's going to be a big play for the sales process and like within that relationship building part? Or do you think that it's hindering that? Like, where do you stand with AI?
That is I've thought about it. I really have.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, are they going to be able to take AI and make that the salesperson?
Right.
Now, will that machine, AI, that artificial brain, be able to actually connect?
Yep.
It will be able to speak. It will be able to do words. We've already seen it. You can just do an AI of me and I'll talk, and maybe that's an efficient way. But when I go back to my customers telling me you're not genuine, is AI genuine?
Right.
Are they suddenly, because it's AI and it's cool, they're going to say, oh, I'll buy from that very not genuine machine? Did you see the commencement speech by Jerry Seinfeld?
I did. I actually just posted it on LinkedIn today.
Okay. Remember, he's talking about AI.
Yep.
He's talking about the things we should be proud of and should be valuing, and the things that we shouldn't be proud of and not be valuing.
Yep.
And he says, AI, because you can't do it. Because you can't do it.
That's right.
He goes, their advertising campaign should be the exact opposite of Nike. You just can't do it.
That's
Use AI. So, you know what? Maybe it's an easy shortcut. Right now, I probably need to use my brain as much as possible to keep it as sharp as possible. I don't want it to dull too fast, as and that may already be happening.
Yeah.
But what would I become if I had something else do all my work for me?
No, look, I get it, man. And you know what? I've been using it a lot, and I've been surprised at some of the stuff that it does. But I've also been disappointed in some of the stuff that it does. So like, there's been a lot of times where you go to apply it and you find out whatever it's doing is actually farce. Like it's not true. I've also had situations where like it comes across very confident in the results that it's giving you, and then you go to double check the work and it's not accurate. So like I've had a mixed bag of emotions with it, because I think it's super powerful, but I'm not so sure that it understands what the human experience is. And I think that's really important in certain things, especially when you're talking about customers. And I get a little nervous about it being in front of a relationship. Certainly behind the relationship, it can have a part, right? but I don't know that it would build on that. So you've got all this tech, right? And you're coming at it from this low tech point of view, mostly because, you're in the relationship business. Are there any tips and tricks or like hacks that you're using on behind the scenes, like an app or a tracking mechanism or contact lead generation or contacts in your phone? Like, how do you keep yourself organized? Is there any technology behind Darren Maxwell?
I got a big whiteboard with about 10,000 names on it.
I know that's not
there
true.
You go.
Come on.
No. Look, I use LinkedIn. I use my Apple contacts. And Seamless AI, I do use a little bit from time to time. I don't need it as much as some others. It's a phenomenal tool.
It is. I'm using it too.
For getting contacts within new places. But in terms of my job, I mean, I probably the thing I do most is text.
Yeah,
I text my customers all the time. I sit at I'm on my laptop right now, and most people work from their laptop. I obviously email from my laptop. Certainly, if I'm doing something that takes a professional writer's touch, I'll do it from my laptop. But I'll be sitting at my desk, and I'll be working on my iPhone. So instead of sitting here doing this, I'll be communicating half my day's communication. I mean, this tool right here is what I spend almost all of my time on, between LinkedIn, the internet, which looking up tools, texting and phone calling. And that's, half my emails I send from here.
Yeah.
Only ones that have to be more professional do I send from here. Most of the business I do every day is right here.
I mean, that says a lot, right? That says a ton about where people are today. If you're having more interfacing with texting, right, than calling or emailing, because a lot of people will say like, oh, it's all about email, right? It's all about outbound email campaigns and stuff. You're actually finding that it's more about short bursts like SMS and things like that, right?
Oh, without a doubt. As a matter of fact, and I haven't done this as much as I used to, but when these things first came out and the video component of them was available. I've always been a hunter. I've been a prospector, and had to do cold calling. I mean, when we got to Core didn't say, oh, here's your business. Here's the book of business we're giving you.
No.
Take these accounts. No. They were like, we have these accounts. They're house accounts. You don't get any of that. You got to go to work and bring us the accounts. So, I mean, I used to use this right here and create, if I'm going after a new customer, okay, brand new account, and some customers out there watching this may say, yep, that's how he got to me. It's what he did for me or to me. I guess it's probably more like it. But I'd probably leave most of the time you're going to get a voicemail. So I'd make a first phone call. I would connect with them on LinkedIn before I knew them. I've got enough connections that would happen. I would then send an email, a LinkedIn message. I would send a text if I had their cell phone number. And if I had the cell phone number, not only did I send them a handwritten letter as well, a little note card, Darren Maxwell, my business card, I'd write a handwritten note. I would also send them a video text on iPhone saying, I am Darren Maxwell, Core Technology Solutions, or whatever company before that. And I'm the guy that you're getting ready to receive this. You've received that. You received this. I just want you to put a name with a face.
I didn't know that. You do that a lot with video, huh?
Oh yeah. I didn't know that. I haven't had to do it in quite a while. Where I am at business and accounts and relationships has changed. But that definitely something that I would, if Tom Roberto was the guy I was prospecting, I was calling you, you were going to receive a LinkedIn connection from me, probably if you accepted it, a LinkedIn message, a phone call voicemail that I would leave you. If I had that cell phone number, a text with a video, short video, not long. And then I would also give you a handwritten note card with a business card.
That's pretty cool, man. I didn't know that. Look, using video, I think is huge. I mean, that's a kind of a big deal. That's a lot of tech in and of itself, right? Like AI is not creating videos, Darren Maxwell.
No, here's a cool little story. One of my customers, and this was actually early on in my career at Core. So I get into one of my accounts. They're calling on a big box retailer. They had never done business with before, but the account team had gotten themselves in a pretty good position. our company had done over the years a lot of different rollouts for this retailer. So I said to this customer, actually the salesperson, the account director in this company, what if I could go to my team, list out the projects we've done in prior years past, and you and I can use a video, and we'll create a video on our iPhone, and I'll help pitch and present our part of it with you, and you send it to your customer. And he did it. We did it, and they won the project.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, that's
a true story.
Super powerful. So let me ask you this. So that's actually a good segue. So, another thing that I think technology has an impact on is the generational divide, right? So you've still got some boomers that are in the workplace, right? Especially in enterprise, right? They're towards the end of their career. You've certainly got, Gen X and Zennials, Millennials, all this stuff. But then you've also got these young kids coming out of school. And there's a lot of different positions where some of them were born before the internet and some of them don't know what life was like without the internet, right? Are you finding that as you're calling on customers and you're getting either younger people or older people or whatever, do you notice a difference in how you would connect with them and how they respond? Or from like a sales perspective, is it really true to who humans are, right? Like, does it not really seem to matter?
That's a good question. And in my experience, I definitely see in the younger generation, not necessarily on who I'm dealing with in my customer base or prospects that we're trying to reach out to, but definitely, obviously, my children, I got 4 kids, a 24, 23, a 21-year-old. We've got lots of young kids in companies. I definitely see, obviously, technology is a huge part of what they're doing, which is a great benefit, and they're really good, and they're going to help move a lot of companies and a lot of businesses through and forward into the future. But the one aspect I'm concerned about is that technology creates, in my opinion, a lack of being able to really connect well, communicate well, build relationships, great handshakes, look at each other in the eye, and hey, I'm glad to see you. How many people do you watch walking down the road? I was just in a big city a couple days ago and watching people, 20-somethings and 30-somethings just walking down the road, head down, looking at their phone.
Yeah.
Just eye on their technology the whole way through. There's so much time. It's brought us so much closer together in so many ways. I mean, we can communicate with superstars, musicians. I did something on Twitter the other day, and Mike Rutherford, the guitarist and bass player from the original Genesis lineup, liked one of my things.
Which is amazing.
That never could have happened, ever before. Now stuff like that happens all the time. So it's brought us together in so many ways, but not so many ways in that we're closer and better communicators and connectors and relationship builders together than we are. My son was at an event a couple of nights ago, and it was it was for the food industry. He was invited because of somebody, his girlfriend who works in that industry, and there were a bunch of podcasters, influencers, TikTok, and all these different social media influencers that were there. And he goes, I tried to talk to them. He goes, first of all, the whole time, all they are doing is videoing and talking into video constantly. When he did talk to them, he said, none of them asked me one question. None of them tried to find out. It was all about them and everything they did. And that's kind of what technology has done. It has made it all about me.
Yeah.
Which, as a seller early on, I didn't have any technology. It was all about, go get the sale. You got to hit your numbers. Go make that. Oh, he just won the big sale. Ring the bell. Had nothing to do. Did I actually add value to somebody's life and their brand and their business? So it wasn't until I figured out how to connect and build really real relationships that were there to serve them and not me. And I'm hearing, and this technology to me, in one sense, the law of opposites. There's energy going in one way and there's an opposite flow going the other, right? And it's a law. It's a natural law. And as technology's bringing us closer together than ever before, the same time, I feel like it's bringing us further apart than ever before as well.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think there's good use cases for everything. And I think depending on things that surround the individual, right? Like, if you're a healthy minded person, I think you'll use it correctly, right? If you're not, and you're in a dark place, or you're coming at it from like a facetious angle, I think it could also, cut the other way. And I think it can be sort of a negative in somebody's life, or make it worse. So it's like any tool, right? Like you can put an air nailer, right? Like a pneumatic air nailer in somebody's hands, and either they're going to build a house or they'll nail their leg to something and end up in the hospital, right? It's the same thing with technology, I feel like. So you're talking about like frameworks and connecting with people. Like I know you and I share a similar vision with this, but like, is there any frameworks that you've applied to your life, both, at work and at home, and principles that you live by that really drive that? Like, I know you and I are both a Simon Sinek fan, but like, are there any other frameworks, or maybe it's that one, that really drive you?
There's several. Certainly, we was talking about Simon Sinek, start with why. I mean, that was a game changer for me. I sat in this business and doing exactly what I'm doing in my late 30s and early 40s, hitting a struggle time. I've been at it a long time, and all of a sudden it started to feel like everything was about price. Everyone's saying it's about price, it's about price. This customer saying this is a commodity now, you're going to have to do better, right? And you start to get that into your head. And that becomes, it's hard to do your job well when you've got that in your mind. And I saw start with why, and I started to look at that and go, how does that impact my job? And I began to realize, if I'm calling on one of my customers in their account, I'm trying to tell them, you can trust me to help you. They've then got to take the risk and say, am I going to allow him and them to come into this account? Am I going to introduce them to my superior potentially? And then on down the line, if they say yes, now they're placing their faith in me and us. And then the sales team's placing their faith in me and us to go out and represent them and their brand well. And if we violate that, everybody down the line, the end customer and their brand, everybody down the line has now had a damage to their reputation. And it's, could be my fault.
Sure.
That's the why. So why is definitely something that I teach my kids.
Yeah.
But, there's nothing more valuable to me than my faith. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. And I certainly spend a lot of time with family. Quality family time is definitely one of those guardrails. I'm an avid goal setter. I became a goal setter when I had my first conversation with a mentor many years ago, when I was very up and down and not making nearly enough money to provide for my family. And I'm talking to this guy and he says, well, do you have any goals? And I'm like, yeah, I got lots of goals. Well, what are they? I want to make more money. Yeah. I want to have pay my house off, but there was nothing real. Right. And then he goes, well, let me show you my goals. And he pulls out this freaking notebook of goals. And I'm like, holy cow. I mean, he's got a list of everything he wants to do. He's got true goals. He's got daily goals that are scheduled. And then he's got these dream goals written out like a book. And I was like, wow. One of the guardrail principles that I believe in is reading a lot. And that same mentor said, I was never a big reader. And he said, if you just read one book a month, Darren, that's 12 books a year. Could you do that? Now, just like any salesperson, you ask any salesperson any question, they're going to say, of course. But honestly, in my head, I'm going, that's a pretty big investment. One book a month? I don't know. And but I said, yeah, absolutely. And then he handed me John C. Maxwell's Failing Forward. He goes, well, let's start with this one. And you know what? I started to do that. He said, if you'll do 12 books a year, not very many, but if you do that for 10 straight years, you've read 120 books on a couple of subjects, you'll become a top 1% of subject matter experts on it. And that right there kind of became that became my education.
And look, you say, you're not a college graduate and everything, but you're very well read, I think. And you seek knowledge in a way that, like, I think you can't teach, right? Like, you either have to have that in you, that hunger in you, or not. And I think for sure that you have that. And it shows in how you're able to pull concepts together and then string them together and apply them in real life. Like that is a skill that I don't think enough people focus on, and they certainly don't teach younger kids. And it's a shame because I feel like that is something that technology hasn't enhanced at all, in my opinion. You know, teaching somebody how to learn is a very tough thing.
But at the same time, through technology, you have access to so much great information. You really do. Now, again, the law of opposites, you've got access to just as much destructive, awful information, but some of the best, you can get every one of those books online right there. You don't have to go check a book out or read a book or buy a book. It's right there on your phone. My wife reads every book on her phone. Now, I still like having the book, marking it up, dog-earing it. Yeah. I've never read a book on a technology device.
I like to do books on tape. Like audio books are pretty good, like, because it's a different way to kind of get the information, but it's definitely not reading. You know what I mean? Like it's you're listening.
Absolutely.
So what does somebody have to do to get your attention, right? So you're talking about you use video and you use text messaging a lot, and you know, people still want to connect on like a human level. So what does somebody have to do to get your attention? Like what really grabs you?
I'll tell you what, for me, I love a good joke. So if someone sends a really good joke to me, I'm like, okay, if you started off that way, you know, I'm like the dog. Poof, I'm chasing it, you know, go fetch. I'm after it, buddy. And, you know, so that's one way, as long as I get the sense that with that joke, there's something behind it that's, you know, legitimate. But, you know, being someone that's actually built a career around setting new customer appointments and setting up new presentation meetings and bringing in new accounts. I don't know how many accounts at Core I have, maybe 30 or so. A lot, but you know, people that do reach out to me, I don't, unless they've got an amazing message of delivery that says, I'm here to serve you. And it's evident, I've got a value to bring you. I'd value persistence.
Really?
Someone that keeps coming. That to me is very valuable. I respect it. If someone keeps coming, to me, they get it, because what's one of the biggest keys? You ask anybody in the history of success in any field, one of the biggest keys that got them there? Persistence,
yeah.
Right? And one of the things I used to tell prospects, the ones where I keep calling, I keep sending emails, I keep sending texts, I keep sending handwritten letters, and I'm not getting a response. They've just decided he's not the one, or I'm just not interested in anything. Doesn't matter what he does or says. And one of the things I would say in voicemail, I would say, Darren Maxwell calling again. I'm only calling because I currently work with companies just like yours. I'm adding a tremendous amount of value to them this way. I simply want to see if I could do the same for you. In 10 minutes, if we could talk to see if that's a fit. And I'm trying to be persistent because I know persistence is the key to success. And you would not be in your position with the successful business and title that you have if you weren't really persistent yourself. So you must value that. So I'm going to keep calling. When the timing's right, I look forward to our time we can engage. And you'd be surprised how many times people responded to the persistence.
No, look, I've been witness to some of the stuff that you've done and some of the feedback that we've gotten from customers right in front of you, where, you know, they say the reason we're here is because Darren's persistence. He just would not stop. And, you know, those conversations go places. I think, again, it does come down to, you know, making a relationship, connecting on a human level and showing them that you're a real person, that you're actually there for good, and that you're trying to help them through something. And again, we're in the tech business. It's extremely complex. How can you make my life more simple in a world of complexity, right? Like that matters a lot. I think that shines for sure.
Yeah. I still remember, you remember PTG in Detroit?
Yeah. 100%. That's one of the stories I tell all the time. Yeah.
That was an account that we're trying to get in. Actually, it was that was maybe one of the only customers that Jim ever gave me at Core. It was already an account, but for some reason, Jim was working it, and they had us in their system, like showing up as just like an individual tech in New Jersey, right?
Yep.
So we weren't in the right place, weren't talking to the right people, And all you did was get a couple tickets a year when they had one in New Jersey, and that was it. And he said, here, take it over. So I start trying to call people, and I wasn't getting anywhere. I start researching the company. I see that the CEO of PTG, she started the company, and I looked her up. I found an article about her in the Detroit Free Press years earlier, and she built a field service tech company, and she used firefighters to actually, that's how she tried to build. It was digital signage and technology. So she said, I'm going to go to technical people. Firefighters might have some technical aptitude, right? To do this, and I'll see if they want to work part-time on their off hours. And so she built that. And then she actually wrote a book about the, signage and marketing. And, I reached out to her directly, sent her an email, and she's the CEO of the company. And I said, introduce myself. This is what we do. I would love to meet you. And I sent a copy of the letter, the article from the Detroit Free Press like 10 or 12 years earlier. And I said, I'm really impressed with your story. We're in your system as a vendor, but we're not doing any business. I'd love to share the value we bring. And by the way, I said, I see you've written a book. I would love if you could give me an appointment to meet with you in person, if you'd sign the book, because I'm getting ready to purchase on Amazon. I then purchased the book and then sent her proof of purchase receipt via email. She called me 10 minutes later, and I had an appointment.
The best part about that story was she says, I've never seen anybody do this before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
And so, yeah. So that actually, and we ended up doing good business.
No, 100%. Well, listen, man, where can people find more information about you? Give yourself some shameless plugs or how can I add some value for you on this podcast?
Well, I work for Core Technology Solutions. You can find me on LinkedIn for sure. Of course, I don't have the address. Those addresses, you can't remember. There's a bunch of numbers. I haven't customized it yet.
So listen, I really appreciate this, man. Like it's a ton of fun hearing some of your stories, and like I love bantering back and forth with you. I miss being at the bar in the wee hours of the night, kind of debating management styles and things like that. But it means a lot to me that you came on here, and I appreciate that you're able to share your story and everything.
Yeah.
And I respect the hell out of you. So thank you. I you can't say it enough.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I respect the hell out of you. Definitely one of the sharpest guys I know. Most well-rounded too. Yeah. I mean, look, I've learned to do a couple of things well. You can do lots of things well. So anybody that's working with Tom, just know he can do a lot of things well. He's very well-rounded. So you know what? I hope that this podcast and your business, the Technology Shaman, takes off, and you end up having so many great customers, clients, and partners that you end up consulting with and helping change the course of their company, their direction, and their wealth through the technology and knowledge that you share.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Now, look, I appreciate you saying that. For everybody listening, I really appreciate you tuning in. Darren and myself are some of the stories that you'll hear on the podcast. Thanks for listening. We have more episodes coming up. I think you'll be really impressed with some of the folks that are coming on. They've got some great stories from different walks of life and how they apply technology. And it just goes to show you that there is not one way to do things. There's not one way right. It's not black and white. And we'll see you on the next Cafe Technica. Thank you.
Oops. Bye-bye.